Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Cahoon. I'm one of our contributors on the AI for RA AI Trailblazer blog series. So today I have the opportunity to sit with Sylvia Bradshaw and Sarah Martinick. They are two of our principal investigators here on the AI for RA initiative, or more formally known as Crossing the Innovation Valley of Death, democratizing data and artificial intelligence for research administration. So first, I want to thank you both for joining us. I thought that we would start with some introductions. Sarah and Sylvia, could you please tell our listeners about your positions in research administrations and how these connect to your roles as PIs on the our AI for RA initiative? How about we start with Sarah?
Sure. Thank you, Jason. I'm Sarah Martinick. I am the Director of Sponsored Programs at the University of Idaho, and I get to be one of the principal investigators on this National Science Foundation grant. And I've been working with Sylvia for a very long time and very excited to get to work with her even more on this project.
Excellent. I'm Sylvia Bradshaw, and I just want to start by saying what an honor it is to be working with Sarah in this capacity. We've had lots of intersections in our roles in research administration, and this has by far been the most exciting, the most work, but absolutely one of the highlights of my career to move forward. I'm the executive director at Southern Utah University of our Sponsor Programs, Agreements, Research, and Contracts Office. We affectionately call that the SPARC office, much easier to say. And I'm just excited to be here with you today.
All right, well, thank you both. So today we're really here to talk about kind of the partnership between the research administration organizations at the University of Idaho and Southern Utah University. And we want to talk about how these collaborative efforts have steered the direction that we've taken on the AI for RA initiative. And so in our public messaging, we've kind of talked about how AI for RA is built on a vision for democratized access to AI and innovation data handling practices. Right. For our listeners, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about this vision and how it came to be.
That's awesome, Jason. First of all, I just want to really quickly jump back on that word you used, democratize. That can have a lot of different meanings to begin with, but I just want everyone to understand at this point that when we talk about democratized access, we're talking about making resources available to all. So let's just make that clear right up front. And that kind of brings in me in my role in this project is that Southern Utah University is a predominantly undergraduate institution, a PUI, located in a rural town of Cedar City, Utah, and we have a teaching mission. So we are very, very different. And democratized access or equal access for us to have these resources becomes really, really important. So with that, Sarah, do you want to add some more?
Yeah, our vision for this project and the democratized access is really built on the understanding that we can help the national research landscape prosper by giving people access to tools and resources that they may not otherwise have access to, and that there needed to be kind of a catalyst to develop those resources as an open source mission. We felt like we were well positioned to begin that effort, but knew that the partnership with Sylvia at a PUI was really important to ensure that we were considering the differences and the similarities between schools of different sizes and with different missions.
And
Yeah.
boy, is that exciting when someone calls you up and says, "Hey, do you want us to help you?" I mean, that was between the lines. She said, "Would you like to participate with this?" And what I heard, oh my goodness, somebody's willing to use their resources to help us to be able to further our mission. And as a teaching mission institution, we don't have all of the research resources built into our structure. But when we engage in federal funding, we absolutely have to have all those same compliance requirements. We have to meet all the same things and dabble in all these different areas with the compliance issues at hand. So we have to know a little bit about a whole lot. And where it Sarah's institution there at University of Idaho, they go a lot deeper in their understanding and knowledge. So when I heard, would you like to work with us on this? I was absolutely thrilled to say yes, 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 we would love to. And my goodness, what a great journey it's been so far.
Yeah, and I want to build off of some of these similarities and differences that you two are kind of pointing out between these universities. In my understanding, from a RA lens, some of these differences are considerable. And I kind of want to use these differences as a way to kind of look back to the beginning of this partnership and think when you all were kind of forming this partnership and in envisioning what it would come to be, how did you all plan on kind of leveraging these similarities and differences that you saw between your institutions and the RA operations within them?
That's a great question and a big question. The backstory is pretty simple. It's no secret that there's been a lot of federal regulatory changes in the last couple of years, but there's also been a huge increase in federal regulatory oversight in sponsored funding over the last 10 or so years. That means that research administrators are truly doing more with less on a daily basis in a very high risk compliance environment. Yes, University of Idaho as a Carnegie R1 and a land grant, we focus a lot of our resources on research and other scholarly activity, but that doesn't mean that our students come second. In fact, we work really hard as an institution to ensure that our students gain everything that they can from a research, public service outreach, or instruction type sponsored project. And that is very similar to what I experienced when I visited Cedar City and got to spend some time with Sylvia on her campus at Southern Utah University. Their students are highly engaged, and Sylvia has some amazing stories about how engaged her students are. And in fact, some of her, I won't say best, but some of the employees that I lean on heavily at SUU were student employees at one point in time. I myself was a student employee at one point in time for the Office of Sponsored Programs, actually before I graduated from U of I. So that student experience is not unique. It is very important. I think all schools would agree that they put their students first. Sylvia and I, we are on a lot of committees together. We do a lot of work together. That partnership felt very natural because I knew how small her team was at the time that we began this journey. But I also knew how similar our schools are, not in size, but focus on our students. And also, I know that every school, no matter what their size, has more to offer to the national research landscape. And so when we came up with this idea at the University of Idaho, Sylvia was the first person that I thought of, and she was the first person that I called. And as we've gone down this path, we found out that we are much more similar in terms of mission and vision and processes than I actually thought.
That's really been an incredible realization to think through. Um, we find ourselves in the PY world as we tend to work together and lean on each other at other institutions that are like mine in rural areas or in teaching institution type missions. We tend to lean on each other very heavily. And we sometimes get a little caught up in thinking, woe is me, we don't have the resources. And then realizing that, you know what? Yes, we do. Because we have this network of administrators all around us. And that is what I love about research administration, why I've fallen in love with this field, while I am committed to it, why I want to help contribute to it and to provide more resources is because that collaborative environment everywhere. It is just incredible to be able to recognize that we all have skill sets, we all have strengths that we can contribute, and when we work together, we just get so much further. So this has been so exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, Sylvia, you talked about strengths. I think both of our teams, despite their size differences, have the same challenges, but also very different strengths. So here we have an Office of Research Assurances. They handle all of our major compliance tasks like financial conflict of interest, human subjects research, animal care and use, those kinds of things. We also have an Office of Technology Transfer. I direct the Office of Sponsored Programs. It's a team of 21 people plus 6 interns. That's a fairly sizable team for an entity of our size. Sylvia has a very different size of her team, but she also does not have those separate compliance departments, which means her team has to know a little bit about everything and perform in all of those functions. My team gets to specialize in very specific processes and regulations, and they know everything about that specific thing, but maybe just a little bit about the things outside of their area. So we have found that those differences in structure, while they matter, where it matters is just how you use the automations that you put in place. It doesn't change the fact that you do still need automations. And so we're finding that Sylvia's team is much more agile because they know a lot about every piece of the process and enables them to think about things in a full life cycle. Whereas our team is somewhat more siloed in that they are very specialized in their area. They know what the other teams do, but that full life cycle piece doesn't come as quickly to them. So similarities, but definitely differences there.
Right. And just to add on to that, when we're talking size, both of our institutions are right at that 15,000 enrollment mark for students. So
Yeah.
size-wise, we're actually quite right at the same level. But it's just, again, that mission that differentiates us and really creates the special, unique attributes of each institution.
Yeah.
Right, interesting. So it sounds kind of to me like, although both RA organizations may have similar like foundational aims for how they're serving their universities, as Sylvia mentioned, kind of the resources that they leverage and how they leverage them may differ. There may be different, I think different scales in the portfolio may call for different tools and different human resources as well, like how are we collaborating, how are we coming together, and so forth. And I guess that brings me to thinking about the tool that we're developing through the AI for RA initiative. Um, the tool is called Vandalizer. It's an AI tool that's designed specifically for RA functions. And so I'm curious if we could maybe give our listeners just a brief introduction into the tool and how it can serve different size RA organizations like those at U of I and SUU.
Sure. So Vandalizer is called Vandalizer because we are the University of Idaho Vandals. Super creative name, the Vandalizer. We utilized our mascot, Joe Vandal, as an icon within the software itself. It is specifically designed for research administrators. So all of the tasks and workflows in the system are geared towards processes or products that research administrators are responsible for. So some good examples would be taking information out of an agreement and inputting it into a system, whether it's your financial system or your research admin system. There's a particular task that we call extraction that performs that function in the Vandalizer for us. The critical piece here, and the reason why we believe that Vandalizer is so special, is because the workflows and the tasks that we will be releasing are vetted. They are secure, they are consistent, they produce similar results each time, and we are able to evaluate those results to ensure that they are accurate. That can't be said for all AI technologies and outputs. You need someone who is a subject matter expert to vet those outputs. This doesn't mean that we don't have a human in the loop. We are very cautious about what we choose to automate and what we choose to input into the system, still ensuring that we're protecting the information that we're required to protect under federal requirements, but finding those manual processes that don't require human critical thinking and cutting out the time in our research administrator's day from those processes to be spent in those difficult critical thinking areas where research administrators truly shine. We are the type of people who love a challenge. We like to do research and we really want to find the best solution to a difficult problem. And I say solution, not answer, because we are very goal-oriented people who serve our faculty and our researchers so that they can do what they do best, which is high caliber, impactful research and scholarly activity. Um, Vandalizer, really, it's just meant as an automation. It's meant to take away those manual repetitive tasks and allow research administrators to spend time doing the things that they do best to protect their institution.
That was a great explanation. I'll just say that one thing, Sarah leaned into it a little bit earlier, that why my team absolutely likes engaging with Vandalizer is since we don't have those extra offices for all these other compliance areas, we're very used to jumping out into the vulnerable world and saying, hey, I don't know something, I need your help, and going to other resources to move forward. So when Vandalizer came our way, we were so excited to engage, so excited to put it to the test and to just give us yet one more resource to ease our lives. And so my team was really thrilled about moving forward in it and in making time in their day to do that. At a PUI, we have that advantage because our workload is so varied that we're not mired in a very deep process. So we are able to say, think throughout our day, okay, when I'm doing this, is this something that I could create a workflow in Vandalizer for? And be able to have the opportunity to jump over and test it out and see if it is something that would work within the Vandalizer system. And so that's why I think part of the beauty of us being able to be involved was because then we can add that real life, real day-to-day processing. We started with asking all of our research administrators to get really vulnerable and turn on the little Zoom recording link and record themselves doing tasks that they did every day. And that really helped them think through, oh, this is a process here that I could turn into a workflow. And so it was kind of awkward for them to all be sitting there with their record buttons on, and but it really helped, and it's been fun to see their creativity and let them join into this practice and say, hey, I've got an idea to bring this forward. It's not just the co-PIs leading the way, it's everybody on the teams. And I cannot say enough for how appreciative I am of the UI team. It is just every time I have a meeting with their team, it is just humbling to recognize the skill sets within that room. And wow, what an honor it is to be part of this project.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Sylvia. I want to build off this idea of actually testing Vandalizer and putting this tool into practice between both of your RA organizations. Of course, we have and in the AI for RA initiative, we have an experienced teams of developers and AI professionals and other technically inclined personnel. But of course, it's the RA professionals who actually have to apply the tool to the field and through putting it into practice, continue to develop it. So I guess I wanted to ask more about what that development process has been like and how the two distinct perspectives from your respective organizations have contributed toward the design and continued development of this tool.
Sylvia, do you want to start since you guys were first to hire your data scientist and got rolling?
You bet. That was one of our first huge wins was that this grant did allow us to hire a data scientist, something that we'd never even thought about in the past. It hadn't even crossed our minds how critical that position would be. And wow, now that we have that position, I will never, ever have a team without one again. To be able to have that data piece added to the work we do, the decisions that we make, and helping us think through our processes from an outside fresh lens and with a data perspective. Wow, that's my first thing that I tell everybody. What have you learned from this project? I say, get you a data analyst, a data scientist of some sort to be on your team permanently, forever and always. That will absolutely move you forward with what you can do. that definitely a huge win for that. Um, I also was thinking about the fact that today, later this afternoon, we have a celebration for our Vandalizer where we've had a little competition going on about who can create the best workflows. And it's going to be fun to see what kind of things everyone came up with. Um, very big variety, everywhere from a very simple application, like the one that, I mean, it's very simple, but it would be very helpful. It was simply taking a NoFo, uploading it to the Vandalizer system, and having the system suggest programs with the unique, catchy acronym. That's always one of the things that moves us forward in this world in the research development side of it when they're just starting their idea creation. And so our research development side that we have to really work closely with our faculty, just that one piece, as simple as that sounds, really can move something forward and make excitement for a project and the creation of that project and the idea. That's a simple one. And then one of the more complex workflows was one that our compliance person in our office had thought about our post-award workbook. Now that one is a lot more complex. That's taking all the information from a notice of award, extracting that information out, putting it into our workbook that we complete, and then we send that on to our accounting services to do account setup. And so it's quite an extensive workflow that she has created. I think she had 16 different prompts, and within each prompt, there's a lot of different tasks involved. But once that work has been put into it up front, that will be a very quick process and cut down that post-award setup time for our institution. So there's a great big variety of things that have happened, and those are just two of the samples of the ideas that are coming forward.
Those are great examples, though, because really you're talking about what's important to the sponsor and how you get a proposal through into the next level of review, right? And sometimes it is just the title. Sometimes that's what they see first. Well, always that's what they see first, right? That matters a lot. And when that gets out into the world, having a catchy acronym matters a lot, right?
Yeah.
So there's that piece. But then you also talked about the post-award workbook and the return on investment. So you're going to save how much time per account setup if that automation goes through, right? For just one workflow that was created by a subject matter expert on your team as part of a competition because they want to win a prize and be able to brag that they built the best workflow, right?
Exactly.
So this idea that research administrators, one, they're very overwhelmed. There is a ton of work, a lot to do, and it is rapid fire, high risk, fast paced environment. Getting their engagement in building workflows and using yet another electronic tool was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And Sylvia's team has come up with some really cool ideas for engagement that I don't know that we would have thought of. And that's because they are such an integrated team with such expertise life cycle that they really can sit down and think through all components of what an automation might need. And that has led to some really inspired ideas where we now have 10 workflows undergoing verification right now. Once they're verified, they will be published in the Vandalizer tool and available to everyone that has access to the tool. That includes Southern Utah University. And what we're trying to do with this competition is gain momentum and getting RAs to actually build their own workflows and submit them to the technical team so that we can do the verification, the evaluation, and the security risk. Once that's done and we know that a workflow is producing consistent and accurate results, we will publish it in what we're calling our global store, and all of the team members will have access to that particular workflow. So not only is this coming from subject matter experts, but they'll be able to use it and gain real-time return on investment, again, freeing up their time to do those more critical thinking type tasks. And all of this has come out of really inspired ideas, not just from our technical team, who is absolutely amazing, but from our research administrators themselves, because they want to buy back time as well. Because if you ask any research admin operation at any entity, maybe not any entity, let's say most entities, they're going to tell you that they have more work to do than they can manage in a single day, week, or year.
Absolutely. You know, that reminds me, I was reflecting on this idea of being multipliers, that research administrators are absolutely multipliers in what we do. Everything that we support and give resource to allows others to do more. And any AI application is absolutely a multiplier of that. And so you have this power of exponents now of ability to do more work. Now that doesn't sound all that exciting to be able to do more work. And we've had a lot of discussions with our team about recognizing that that's not the goal. The goal is not to do more work. The goal is to be more efficient and to maybe reclaim some of those hours that we're putting in overtime on weekends and after 5 and reclaim that time and be able to be a multiplier within our regular workload so that we can have a better work-life balance as well.
Yeah, and efficiency, but without sacrificing accuracy, because the risk in our field of inaccuracy is too great.
I think that just kind of brings me to another question that I've kind of had in mind. And I guess this is thinking about thinking more about your roles in your respective positions, both as directors of research administrations, operations at your universities, and as principal investigators on this grant. And I guess I'm curious in thinking about the in leading the way forward at in either of your organizations, how has your experience working as PIs maybe shaped or maybe informed the approaches that you're starting to take as or continuing to take possibly as directors of your RA organizations?
I love this question because it's going to bring out the reality of what this really is. As you were leaning into that, we are research administrators, which means we support PIs. We are not usually the PI. Completely different role. And I've been in the field for quite some time, and I've always had a certain perspective in my mind and thought that I was meeting the needs of the PIs. And now that I'm the PI, my team is like, oh my gosh, Sylvia is the worst PI of all. Of all the complaining we've done throughout the years, she is the worst. Because now I'm looking at things going, oh, this doesn't make sense. Oh, we should do this better. Oh, we should change this report. Oh, we should do this. And it's just really given me a better perspective of what I thought we were doing well, and which I think we were doing very well, but maybe we can do a little bit better. And it's been fun to employ this data scientist into that process and to say, yeah, we could do this better. Let's think about this in a better way. And we've been able to create better processes with our team as a whole outside of Vandalizer, which will in turn hopefully create another workflow in the future as well that we could incorporate into Vandalizer. But it's helping across the board, and my empathy level has greatly increased. I will never complain about another PI ever again when they're last minute working on their annual reports and just wanting to do one more thing, or we're too busy to do something. I will always show empathy first now.
Yeah, I mean, being a PI, I think we both knew was a big responsibility and a heavy lift. Living that reality is entirely different. And I agree with Sylvia wholeheartedly that that perspective for a director of sponsored programs or any similar or equivalent role is super important. So earlier, Sylvia said, one piece of advice she gives straight away is get yourself a data scientist or data analyst. I also echo that, but I also say if you get the chance to be a principal investigator or co-principal investigator, take it because it will open your eyes to what that experience actually entails and help you think of ideas for your entity to support your faculty and your researchers that you may not have thought about before. It could be as simple as a different way to deliver reports. It could be as simple as looking at how your expense system categorizes specific items, or what level of detail you're providing to a PI in order to create a projection, or are you creating projections? How are you helping them manage their spend within the time that they're given, right? A lot of questions, a lot of new process ideas, and a lot of really cool ideas for automations that I think will significantly decrease the burden on our faculty and researchers at all schools, because we do plan to release both Vandalizer and the unified data model as open source components.
Yeah, and I guess I want to ask kind of more about that opening of Vandalizer's tools and those the workflows that have been created for it. I know that there are a lot of other RA professionals that are following the AI for RA initiative fairly closely and have been for quite some time. And I know that some of them are eager to learn more about Vandalizer itself, or know like what this tool could mean possibly for them and their RA organizations. So I guess I was curious, kind of in your visions now at this stage, what do you all envision kind of future collaborations with other RA organizations outside of SUU and U of I looking like?
We actually just had a meeting about this earlier today. Um, we so there are a few options or ideas here. Initially in the proposal, we wrote in adding two more subaward partners in year three. We are in year 1.5 and quickly came to realize at about year one that year three is too long. Other schools have a need now for additional support and automations. And so if we can provide that earlier, we certainly want to advance our work to do that. So what we're thinking about and trying to figure out a way to do this right now is we want to release what we're calling community edition of Vandalizer. We're working on the security platform, what that would look like to integrate, whether or not we would host it, or, there are a lot of security concerns relating to hosting sponsored programs information from another school into our atmosphere. So what we want to do is host a community edition where all people, not just partners, not just sub-awardees, can log in and try Vandalizer. That would be kind of our first. If you want to know how you could increase automations and use AI in your school in a secure, already vetted workflow environment, that would be our first open source type release. Secondary to that, we will be having a sub-award competition and adding at least two more sub-award partners. They would be very similar to the access that Southern Utah University has. They would host Vandalizer in their own environment, behind their own firewall with their own security controls. We've kind of built out the infrastructure to do that with the help of SUU. So we now know what that looks like, what equipment would be necessary, what infrastructure that would require. That would be additional partners. And then nearing the end of this project, we do intend to release kind of instructions and the open source materials so that other schools can create their own Vandalizer in their own environment.
And I'll just add to that, that's specific to the Vandalizer tool itself, but peripheral to that, the amount of requests for presentations and engagement across the nation has just been astronomical. It's been very, very humbling to realize the interest in this space. And also humbling to realize, my goodness, UI is incredibly, incredibly talented, but there needs to be an absolute recognition of the amount of time it takes to put into building these things. Yes, we've got this grant that's helping it, but I think we underestimated the immense amount of work behind it. And just hoping that others that are in our communities are recognizing that this is a lot of work. And to be very grateful for the time of those that are engaging in this. And then also in return, being very grateful for us being willing to have opportunities that I never would have experienced. I am so honored to think of these things that I've been invited to go participate in that I never thought would ever be part of my career pathway. And here we are in spaces that are pretty cool, pretty cool. And we're able to engage others all along the way. So anytime there's a conference that we can have somebody attend, there most likely is going to be a session of some sort of AI for RA. In March, Encura is doing an AI symposium. Because of this AI for RA work, um, we were asked to help chair this symposium and to put that together. And so we were able to expand our network of others that are also really interested in this AI work and doing incredible work as well at their own institutions. So creating this community of practice so that we're all connecting together and working together, we can really make some great impact.
Yeah. And I mean, Sylvia, you said you're humbled to be participating. We we would be remiss if we did not note that we don't believe that we are the best, the greatest, the experts. We are one contributor in an area that is very powerful, but also needs powerful guardrails. There are ethical considerations, security considerations, and technical needs that we need a lot of people to collaborate on to ensure that we're doing what is best and using the tools in the right way. So to that end, we do have a listserv and a community of practice. And what we are hoping to do is transition that listserv into a bi-directional listserv so that our community of practice members can contribute their expertise as well and help SUU and the University of Idaho advance AI in RA in a way where all of our brains working together will make this a much more powerful, impactful project for everyone. We do need community input. And that's why the third aim of our project is a community of practice, a true community of people who have an interest in either a unified data model or artificial intelligence in a research admin operation or both, contributing their expertise, their needs, their knowledge in a space where we can all learn and grow.
Wow. Well, Sarah and Sylvia, you both have given us a lot of insights into the AI for RA process and what it's like kind of working through it. Before we depart, I wanted to ask if you all have any final advice to give to, say, others who are interested in exploring these tools or interested in discovering more about what their place in research administration might be. Yeah, do we have any parting words for our listeners or in viewers?
That's easy. Say yes. When you hear an invitation, say yes. The journey that you will travel will be well worth it. That yes answer is yes, it will bring on a little bit more work, but the dividends are phenomenal. So engage in the work. It's worth the time.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I would also say, remember that you don't have to be an expert in everything. Lean on your collaborators and those around you and share that knowledge and that enthusiasm and great things will happen no matter what space you're in.
Yeah. I can't overestimate or understate the fact that I am not a techie. I
No.
am not a techie. The fact that I am helping with this in the AI space is just fun for me to go and tell my techie husband and my techie son that, hey, I'm engaging in this space. And they're like, wow. And it just goes back to that fact that AI helps everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. There's nobody that AI will not help in some way. So just be open, be vulnerable, and engage.
Well, thank you both so much again for offering your insights into this project. I know a lot of our listeners have been curious about this partnership and what it's been like kind of working through it. So yeah, I want to thank you one last time and great work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jason.